there have been a few instances where I just completely forgot altogether. Yeah. So again, I really appreciate the time that you've taken today, and I really want to make sure respecting your time and what we had blocked out. So typically it's just about 10 to 15 minutes, but is there any hard stop I should really be aware of? Like this kind of really can't go beyond 15 minutes, otherwise my entire schedule is ruined or anything like that?
Nothing like that at all. I've given you plenty of time. So I've got plenty of time today. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Great. Well, as I said, it's just typically about 10 to 15 minutes. And on that, I typically ask just about two questions. The first one is I would love to learn a little bit more about your story, a little bit more about your journey, kind of how you came to where you are today. And the second question slash main topic of the conversation is what would you say to your younger slash 17-year-old self? And I'm not saying go in the past and change anything because I know a lot of people are strong believers and everything happens for a reason, and I am too, so I totally understand. But maybe there's something you'd have loved to hear back then. Or maybe since 17, are there any experiences you've gone through, lessons you've learned that you'd like to relay onto other 17-year-olds?
Okay, great.
All right, perfect. So, is there any questions or anything you'd like me to bring up to make sure I can help promote you better? Any topics? Sometimes people have a specialty that they'd like me to bring up and make sure I talk about.
Well, I'm a love coach. I'm also a 10X licensee as well. So I kind of infuse that into everything. But yeah, I'm a love coach. And so I'll probably talk a little bit about what that means.
Oh yeah, I'd love that.
Because people don't really know, like, what's a love coach?
You know? Yeah, I think that's a great topic. Yeah, I'm sure that'll just come up naturally. And if there's any questions I have beyond that, I will definitely ask. And I'm not sure how many podcasts you've done before me, but I do it very relaxed, just very much conversational style. I don't really have a set amount of questions. Those are the two I structure. And then I can think of like 1,000,010 questions to ask you from there about your specialty. So then I'll go from there.
Okay, great. That's perfect. My hardest challenge is to like summarize my life, like, you know, how I got to where I am now in something that's very succinct, you know. It's kind of hard to do that, but yeah, I'll do my best.
Okay, if you want, we can kind of structure it a little bit differently if you want to do it to condense it a little bit, just like what kind of brought you specifically to love coaching versus everything and all, if that's what you'd like me to ask a little bit, so you don't feel like you have so much to talk about in such a little amount of time.
Maybe that would be maybe that would be better, because I could go all the way back to like, you know, yesterday I did a podcast and literally I went back to when I was 14 years old. But it highlighted, there were 5 elements of my life that kind of highlighted resilience and sort of this, you know, never quit kind of attitude. So, and so who is your audience generally? Are they 17? Is that?
So my general overall audience are young people and young people kind of like me, but a lot of people who do end up watching it are just, you know, professionals like yourself who may be interested in the podcast or sharing around the podcast. So I really have a very broad genre because there's just so many people I've interviewed that are, you know, a little bit older than 17, which is perfectly normal. These are so many things that you can learn at any age, and they always click at any age, whether you're 17 or a little bit older. So you can talk about really anything. I do try to keep it as much age appropriate as possible so I can reach that broader. So I'm sure love coaching, and there's so many things that young people should know about love coaching, but probably nothing too like vulgar with like swearing or like very sexual or anything like that, which I can't imagine you were going to bring up anyway. But if that's what kind of your question was as well, that's, I guess, the only thing I would say.
Yeah, no, that helps, because a part of my story that I talked about yesterday, so I was on a podcast yesterday as well. So, but part of my story is about my journey to motherhood. And my journey to motherhood included some infertility in the form of miscarriages. So I talked a lot about that, and I'm not sure that I would bring that up with this audience. You know,
that's okay. I've had some pretty like more deeper conversations on some things. Some things like, even to mention, is like maybe like abuse or something. So it's not like we don't care at all. It's just typically like if you were to give advice, like very sexual advice, that'd be like a little bit out of the realm, but I can't imagine, as I said, you'd do that anyway. But how about I can structure the questions a little bit more about like, what is love coaching? How did you get into it? What attracted you to love coaching? And through that, I'm sure you can weave your story, because that would make a lot of sense based on that. And that's probably a little bit more structure for you rather than, I don't know where to start. I have such a big journey. I have so much. And I'm sure you've been through a lot that you could share, but I think that might be a better way to structure it.
That's perfect. I love that. And just so you know, too, last year, 2021, I had a YouTube, or I still have a YouTube channel, but last year I focused it every single day. I did a video. So every single day of 2021, I did a video, and it was for kids. Okay. So it was for kids ages 8 to, I say 98, because we're all kids at heart.
Yeah.
But it was for mental, emotional, and spiritual health and well-being. So
that's great.
So I got really familiar and used to kind of speaking to kids or to young adults, I should say.
Sure.
On the topics of, what to do when your best friend tells you that they're not your friend anymore. Or what do you do if your boyfriend, if you get jealous, or, like things like that just kind of, was in my life at the time, that I wanted to just share with kids. I love young adults. I love young people. So
that's awesome. That is so cool. I love that so much, actually. So let me let us kind of transition, because I would love to talk about that more on the podcast as well.
Okay, let's do it.
So we'll just go ahead and get into the podcast, so I don't waste all my questions before we even get started, because I'm so interested and intrigued.
Great. We can talk about whatever you want. So whatever like my agenda, it's all part of me and who I am in my business. So whatever is fine.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for taking the time today. I really appreciate it. And I'm super excited for the call. So everyone, I'd like to introduce Ariane is a holistic coach, mentor, and speaker specializing in the areas of love, spirituality, health, finances, and life purpose. She's a passionate, seasoned world traveler and a dance enthusiast. She's a single mother of 2 awesome teens and a 16-year-old mini golden doodle named The Dude. And we met through my dad a little while back as part of the Grant Cardone, the 10X coaching, which she's a certified coach. And I'm just super excited for the call and everything that she's bringing to the table. So, Ariane, I thank you so much for the time today.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm glad that we were able to schedule this. We had a little bit of difficulties, and I'm glad that you're feeling a little bit better from COVID, which can be it's a little bit tough.
Yeah, I feel like in some ways it's a rite of passage. Like now that sort of the scary part is over, and I'm grateful that the scary part is over. For the most part. But I feel it wasn't really like a matter of like, if you're going to get COVID, it was more like when,
Yes. Yeah.
So, but it was light for me. Thank goodness. So.
Oh, thank goodness. That's really awesome to hear. Well, I'd love to hear, you mentioned that you are a love coach, which is super fantastic. And I'd love to hear, maybe some people might not know exactly what that entails. I'd love for you to delve a little bit deeper. What is a life coach specifically, and what do you deal with specifically?
Yeah, absolutely. So a love coach is basically a coach that helps people with love. And I have sort of 2 different paths that I work with as it relates to that. So we have romantic love. I used to be a matchmaker. So I worked for someone else as a matchmaker, and now I do it in my own company. So I am a matchmaker. And so the romantic part of love is something that I really like to focus on and work with people on. It's kind of like relationship and dating, and how do you take a relationship or how do you go out into the dating world, especially now when we have digital dating, online dating. It can be very hard to connect with people and get the truth, like find an authentic, genuine person. It can be very challenging. So I help people navigate the dating world, digital dating, in-person dating. And then really it's the process of dating is really an internal process where you have to look inside of yourself and you have to figure out what your values are, what's important to you, who you are, what your passions are, what your boundaries are. And then creating your ideal partner, right? So like, given what you know about yourself, you can then project and create, a vision for a life that you want to have. So in my love coaching, I'm combining with the 10X sales and marketing strategies. So I'm creating a program that's called Love Strategy, where we take a lot of the elements and the tools, the techniques of sales and marketing, like writing a mission statement, writing a vision statement, what are your values, who is your ideal client, how do you overcome objections, how do you follow up, how do you close the deal? These are all things that I've like taken and transmuted into love. So into creating a strategy for your love life, which is a different way of approaching it. And I can talk a little bit about energy work as we do that, because when we focus on that, we are actually activating the law of attraction. And I know the law of attraction, manifestation and the law of attraction, people are, think that it's very woo-woo or it doesn't work, or, they don't understand it. But actually the process of manifestation, like if we want love in our lives, romantic love, and we're trying to manifest that, then we can use the law of vibration. There's 3 universal laws that we use together. We use the law of vibration. The law of vibration is like when we have a thought, it creates a feeling in our body. So if we have a bad thought or a scary thought, it creates tension in our body. It creates this, kind of constrictive energy where we might be afraid. And so our bodies are like radio signals that pull to us whatever energy we have. So if we're thinking a thought that is kind of constricting or heavy, like we're depressed or sad, our bodies feel heavy, right? And kind of slow. And so that's the frequency that we're sending out into the world. And so the law of attraction is the next step, which states like energy attracts like energy. So we're basically saying this is the energy that we have, whether it be this heavy energy or this excited light energy, right? So like it's whatever thought we have in our head creates this vibration and frequency. And then the law of attraction goes out and pulls towards us whatever that frequency is that we are thinking about. And we're focused on. And then the law of inspired action is actually where we take that energy and we actually do something about it. So we create a strategy for ourselves, and we do a vision board, or we do, we go out on dates, or, you actually have to take action for manifestation to happen. So does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And the law of attraction is something I'm really familiar with. It's definitely something that my dad had made sure that I was very aware of growing up. And I believed in a lot as a kid, and I still do, of course. And I remember I would used to manifest, like a very quick story is I entered a drawing for like this doll I wanted when I was like 8. And every single night I would just like envision it. How would I feel when I had that doll? What would the call be like? And all of that. And I did that for an entire month. And I put a lot, because it was like my dream scenario, right? Like where I'd go to bed, this is what I think of to like dream of. And this is what I wanted to dream of. And I didn't really think of it that much after, but after the month had passed, I remember my mom came up and she's like, oh, guess who I got a call from? And I was like, who? And she's like, Barnes & Noble, you got the doll. And she gave it to me. And I was like, this is like the craziest thing. And I was like, this has to be, because like no one ever really enters those drawings like, oh, I'm definitely gonna win. No one really enters those. Winning those raffles are so 1 in like 1,000 chance. And I thought that was really incredible. So I'm glad that you're able to not only mention the law of attraction, but also go into like the 3 factors of law of attraction in different ways. And how do you really invoke the law of attraction? Because you see law of attraction, manifestation, like, oh, that doesn't work. Like that's like BS, right? But there are very specific ways that you can go through things and you can think through things and do things that invoke more of it and that attract more to it than just, having a random thought floating out to sea.
Exactly. I love that. And congratulations for you for activating your manifestation powers. Right?
Yeah, definitely. It was such a great feeling. I was like, oh my God, there's no way I could have won that. But I had this thought and there we go.
There you go. And so that speaks to the power of our thoughts. Yes. Right? Like our thoughts are so powerful. And so when we think about that and we link our thoughts to what's happening in our lives and if things aren't going in our lives the way we want them to, we should go back into our thought pattern, right? And say, what story am I telling myself? You know, like, what am I actually saying to myself? I think I'm saying I want to win this doll, but what I'm actually saying is I don't think I'm going to because, maybe so-and-so entered the contest too, or I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough is a really common story that a lot of us tell ourselves, right? So it's thinking about that story that we're telling ourselves. It's trying to find the relationship between what's actually happening in our lives and then backtracking and thinking about what we actually are saying to ourselves and then working on that. Like it's normal to be afraid or scared of doing something, of attempting something. I mean, most people are more afraid of succeeding than they are of failing.
Yeah.
Right. Definitely. So it's like just adjusting and becoming conscious and aware of what we're thinking and matching that or aligning that with the outcome in our lives so that we can, this is magic, right? Like Definitely. This stuff, it's like being Harry Potter, right?
Right.
Or Hermione, right? And being able to say whatever, what do you call it? Spell or whatever we want to say.
Sure.
And it really works. The power of our mind is so strong. And we always have a choice.
Of course.
Right? We have a choice. Sometimes it feels like we're stuck and we don't have a choice, but we always have a choice. And so if we can remind ourselves that we always have a choice and to try to get creative, if you feel like you don't have a choice, like getting creative and thinking about what could an alternative choice be, and just start to like brainstorm what you want, matching what you want with where you are in the moment, and a choice that you could make that would get you closer, one step closer to where you actually want to be, not where you don't want to be.
Definitely.
Right?
Yeah, those are really great. I appreciate that and appreciate them, because I think it's really easy to undermine the power of your mindset. And I think that also thinking of it as something intimidating, as like, oh, I can't change it. It's so hard. I can't really go down that path. I'm so focused on this one path. I can't even change at this point. But, we can always change, at least for the better. And as long as you put in the time and you put in the effort and you put in the energy, you can get there.
And you believe in yourself, right? If you believe that it's possible, right? Like sometimes people they're not even aware that they have a choice, that they can think differently.
Of course.
Like it's like not even in their consciousness that they can do it. So I'm here to tell you and to tell anyone who's listening that we have power, that we are powerful, powerful people. And that this is one thing that I did want to mention is that the little voice inside of us, right? Mm-hmm. Our intuition, or that little voice that says, it's like our gut instinct. It's the thing that helps direct us in our lives. That is the thing that is going to create our goal, right? That is the passion inside of us that will help align us to a goal that is worthy for us. The challenge is our analyzer, our thinking. When we know initially what the right answer is, but yet then all of a sudden we start to talk ourselves out of it, right? And our mental, our analyzer, our thoughts start to go into rewinding what our intuition or what our gut instinct says to do. And that can be because of fear. It can be because we think we're not good enough. It can be, you know, so many different things. But I wanted to highlight that as being a very, very important part of decision making and of goal setting and of manifestation and of just getting through life in general, is like learning how to listen to that little voice inside of us. It's like our little guide, you know, and it tells us where to go and what to do. And it whispers, like it's very quiet, right? And it's sometimes hard to hear it because the rest of the world is so loud and the voice inside of our head is really loud. So we have to listen to the voice in our heart and use that as our sort of our GPS system, right, on how to go forward in life.
Yeah, that is really beautiful. I really appreciate you bringing that up. And I think that's really powerful. You'll definitely speak to a lot of people.
Awesome.
Yay. Yeah. I also would love to bring up, you had mentioned that with your love coaching, you have now combined with the 10x Grant Cardone stuff. And I think that is really cool because I think a lot of people don't realize, but dating and putting yourself out there is just like almost selling yourself, for lack of a better term. And it's not in some maybe weird sense, but also there's so much that you can learn from sales that will apply to your personal relationships. Most likely how to connect with people, how to build rapport, how to get through the tough arguments and work through and become even better as like a relationship after. You know, the first thing that comes to mind is his number one rule is, you know, always agree. Agree.
Good
always,
job.
Always agree.
Yes.
And when you are able to agree, it comes from a sense of, you know, their guard is down, like, okay, we're having this argument, but you agree with me. So if you agree with me, you understand what I'm saying. If you understand what I'm saying, we can come to a better agreement together. We can solve this together rather than just blowing up at each other, saying things in the heat of the moment and kind of almost even ruining a relationship. And I think that's like the first thing that comes to mind, but I think that's really powerful. And is there anything else that comes to your mind of when you first saw Grant Cardone's systems, like, this is definitely something I need to add to my love coaching?
I love that you just said all of that, first of all. That was awesome. And yes, agree. That's the number one rule in sales, right? Is like, you just have to agree. And promote is the number one rule in marketing. So, you know, these are very important foundational rules, and they're so powerful because really all anyone wants is to be heard and acknowledged and appreciated. You know, like every individual on the planet, like that's what they want. They want to be heard, acknowledged, and appreciated for who they are, what contribution they have. And so if we're arguing, if we're constantly fighting with each other, then we're feeling unheard, right? And then we start to fight or have conflict, like you mentioned.
Right.
And then no one gets anywhere, right?
Right.
So it's a very powerful tool that you can use. I mean, Grant talks a lot about it. Jared talks a lot about it, just about agreeing with your spouse. Like you're constantly selling, like even at home, what are we going to have for dinner, you know? And like, you can sell your idea of what you want to have for dinner versus, you know, what the other person wants to have for dinner, whatever. Yeah. You can have fun and play with it, which I think is really, really important.
Yes, definitely. I think your personal relationships, I think when I first start thinking this, I think those are the number one place at home, in the safety of your home, but the safety of some people you trust. Those are the best place to work on your sales skills, because because it can only improve really when you work on it. It can't really make it worse than maybe your relationship already might be. It is just implying like always agree, coming across that you want to help solve any problem they have, but you want to come from a place of compassion and empathy, and you want to provide your friends with value and your family. And they'll be able to give you very great feedback like, hey, this is not working. Don't ever say this to me again. But those are the people that care enough about you to tell you the truth as well.
Absolutely. And really, like, the act of agreeing also, you're coming at it from a place of knowing yourself. Right? So you know what you have to offer. And so that's why it's so important. Like, love coaching, and, there are so many ways that there's so much overlap, but it's really about knowing yourself and loving yourself and having compassion for yourself first and foremost. Because if you don't have the love for yourself, it's actually really hard to agree with someone because you don't feel agreeable inside.
Wow.
Right? Like you feel kind of yucky or confused, or if you're at conflict inside of yourself, then it can be very hard to agree with someone and validate them in a genuine and authentic way. And we always want to be genuine and authentic, right? Because that's all we have to offer in this world, really, is like who we are genuinely. And no one is perfect.
Of course not.
So it's recognizing that the agreement can come when we know ourselves, when we love ourselves, when we have given ourselves the that acknowledgement and that validation inside of ourselves. And then it's so much easier to agree with people because we don't have that internal conflict going on.
Right. Yeah. That is such a beautiful way to put it, I think, because I think it always comes down to sometimes it just really isn't going to work, and you have to understand that it might just not be you at the end of the day. It might just be this other person. You might agree as much as you can with this person, but if they don't feel at their heart that they are agreeable, that they can be helped, you can't help them either. That's not really going to be your fault. You can put as many systems as you want into place, agree, show that you care, do everything, but sometimes, and understanding that for yourself as well, as if I'm reaching so many objections like this, is there something that's going on in my own internal conflict? Do I not feel like, oh, this is a great deal I'm providing? Do I not feel like this is a service they need? Maybe that's why they don't feel it either, because I don't feel it myself.
Yes. And we are the creator of our own objections.
Yes.
This is what Grant teaches us, right? So like whatever objection we're getting in life, we have to look at where we are actually creating that objection in our own lives. So it's either too expensive, too much time, or we don't think we're going to use it, right? Those are like the top three objections. Right. So but something that you just said really, like, I felt like it was a nice segue into the second part of coaching that I do, of love coaching, which is not romantic. It's actually, it's more, so I help people have amicable divorce.
Okay.
And I help people whose lives, like if they're depressed or they're sad or they're just not, if they're not feeling love in their lives,
right?
If they're feeling down, to be able to take that heavy emotion, that feeling, that weight, that heavy weight that we feel when we're just not on, or we're sad, or we're angry, or we're frustrated, or we feel trapped in a relationship or in our lives, that feeling, it's looking at that and taking it and turning it and looking at it in a different way and starting to activate, the law of attraction, starting to activate our goals and our intentions with what we want in our lives. And even if we might agree to disagree, right, we can still, like in the case of an amicable divorce, for example, or relationship challenges, whether it's a parent and child or friendships or any situation where we're not feeling love, is where we can then turn it and start looking at, well, how do we want to feel? We can agree to disagree, but yet we still have to have our eye on the same goal, which is to have an amicable divorce, or to have a great relationship with our children, or to have a great relationship with our teacher or our coach, right? Like, so it's basically infusing love in darkness.
Yeah.
it's bringing light to the darkness of life. So that's the other part of love coaching that I really love to focus on, because the romantic stuff is wonderful, but
Sure.
there's a lot of space in our lives for more love and more light. And it's really perspective, it's like kind of all how we choose to look at it. It's going back to our purpose.
Yeah, that is so beautiful that you're able to do that for so many people. That's really amazing, because I really hadn't thought of that until you mentioned that. Yeah, divorce can be really messy. It can be really upsetting. It can hurt a lot of people. But if you go through it as like, hey, this is not really out of spite. This is more just, this is what is best for our relationship. It is what's best for the family. And how are we able to keep a relationship that continues something healthy, even when we're no longer together? And how is it can affect kids, other family members, just even ourselves as well. That is so beautiful that you're able to do that, and you have been helping people through that.
Thank you. In fact, I know we briefly talked about my YouTube channel before we kind of got started here. But I did a YouTube channel, or I have a YouTube channel, but for the year 2021, I did a daily video every single day. And my inspiration for even creating that channel, it's for kids. So the channel is for really anyone who wanted to watch between the ages of 8 to 98. But I created it for kids whose parents might be going through a divorce, because I had a family member who was in that situation, and I was feeling like the children kind of get lost in the shuffle of what's happening with the adults. And the adults kind of sometimes pretend like everything's fine, or even they might fight in front of the child. I don't know, but either way, the kid knows what's happening. Right. Like children know exactly what's going on in the house, whether or not they say it or whatever, but you feel it. And so I created the channel to give, advice and companionship and love to children whose parents might be not able to focus on them in the way that they really need and want in their lives. And so I wanted to be an additional parent figure, mother type figure, to show them love, to show them, it was like, I wanted to create a space that they could go to every single day to find love, to find support, to find that validation and acknowledgement. So every day was a different topic, and, it kind of morphed and melded into different things depending on the day, because I never had a script or an agenda or a strategy. It was just, I showed up every single day because I just wanted to be there for the kids. Wow. So anyways, so that's, and my company is called Hugs and Honey. And so that's what the channel is called too on YouTube. So, wow. And now I'm doing tarot readings. So I'm doing daily tarot readings on the channel. So there's there's like 300, almost 400 videos that you watch.
That is awesome. And that's so great that you were able to be there and you wanted to be there for other people, because I know that is a really tough time, especially for the kids. And sometimes it's easy. There's so much going on and it's not necessarily anyone's fault, but sometimes it's harder for the kids and they don't realize it. And also something about kids is they don't know how to really work through their emotions as maybe adults can. They don't even know how to verbalize it sometimes. They just kind of feel like this like ball, and they're like, why do I feel so down? I don't understand this. I can't really conceptualize it. Something is going on in my family. I don't understand it, but I know it's not good and I don't know how to feel about it. So that's really awesome that you committed to those videos and did that for the year, especially because 2021 was still a pretty hard year. We're getting out of the pandemic, but we're still very much in it. So it's this really weird transition. Like, we have spent an entire year in lockdown and now we're going back, but are we really going back? So it was definitely a lot. So I think that is so cool. And tarot readings are always amazing and super fun to watch. So I love those as well.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's really fun to just kind of be inspired by something and have a intention towards it and then just go for it,
Yeah, definitely.
And consistency is key. So just keeping at it, right?
Yeah, of course. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time today and sharing so much wisdom, so much value. I definitely got so much, and I know other people will be able to get a lot. You mentioned so many amazing nuggets for people to apply for themselves, their personal relationships, business, really romantic, and all the works, because I know those are really important. So I'll be able to share some links to how to get in contact with you in the description, because I know a lot of people could benefit from what you're doing. So again, thank you so much for the time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It was an absolute pleasure to talk to you. It was a great conversation. I had so much fun. So thank you so much.
Awesome.